Is it your belief in that in the Shaolin, belief as a whole that we can live higher quality and longer? Because some people would say, well, you need to sacrifice one for the other. It's an either or, where you'd say sacrifice your happiness to live longer and your quality, or anything like this, or the other way around. But others would say you can absolutely do both. You could live a very long and high quality life. Is that the belief that you have, that you can live quality and quantity?
Absolutely. I think that the things that create quality create also quantity.
Mm,
So the ingredients of the two recipes are the same. So I think that quality and quantity come together. And the idea, exactly as you mentioned before, is to start as early as possible, to not wait until there is all kinds of degenerative processes in place, because many of them also cannot be fully recovered. You know, if you are totally unmobile and you have, severe mobility problems at 50 or at 60, you're not going to recover your mobility of when you were 20 ever. It's impossible, no matter the quantity of practices and stretching and healthy nutrition and anti-inflammatory lifestyle that you have. But if you, for example, start flexibility and mobility practice in a small form at 20,
mhm.
you will at 50 still have the same flexibility and mobility. You just maintain it throughout your life, and you will start degrading only around 70, 80. It's surprising actually how a lot of the things that we started thinking of as a natural consequence of aging, they are not. They're a natural consequence of inactive aging. For example, before I mentioned earlier on in our conversation, I mentioned sarcopenia, and uh, sarcopenia was thought that it's almost a sentence that starts happening at 30 or 40 and creeps on, and by 70 you basically lost all your muscle power. And now there is plenty of modern research which again reflects something that was written in these ancient texts, where the peach can remain very firm and ripe well into the 60s and 70s and 80s, but you need to train, you need to do stuff. If you're not doing your push-ups and squats, to use two banal examples, of course it's going to go away. Use it or lose it. It's a very simple but very correct phrase.
Is that something you witnessed in the Shaolin culture and in Shaolin monks, that many of them grew to an old age and still kept their wit, kept all their, facilities in that way? Or is there a point of course, at 80 or so, you'd start to, decline? People don't know this. I think there's the thought process that Shaolin monks may live for hundreds of years or so, but I mean, they're still humans.
Actually, what was interesting to me when I observed the older generations is that there is an onset of diseases eventually. The
Mm,
organism degenerates on a cellular level, and eventually there is an onset of disease. But usually it's quite sudden
mhm,
and at a very advanced age. So the typical journey through life of a Shaolin monk is until around the late 70s, early 80s, they are absolutely super active. They will hike every morning up the mountain. We're talking about 1,000-meter altitude change, to then do some practice on top of the peak. Then will come down. They will be active all day. They will teach. So mentally, they're very bright. Then around 80, 85, 88, there is a sudden decline. There is an onset of some illness, whether it's cancer or heart disease or whatever, and very rapidly they will live life. And they will do so also, I guess, perhaps the rapidity is because they don't want any medical, let's say, emphasis. They don't want to, over
mhm.
therapeutic themselves. They accept that I've made my life journey. It's been wonderful. I was active. I served my purpose in this world. Now I'm old. Something has come to my organism that's telling me, this body, it's time that it finishes its journey. And so they accept it very serenely. They don't, try in any possible way to elongate further, as you said, with a very, very degraded quality of life.
It's a very counter approach, I would say, or at least the way people go about things as to the Westernized side. Westernized, you hear something and your initial reaction is non-acceptance or acceptance of some medical intervention right away. As we know, people, when they're told they have cancer at any age, is a shock to the body. And suddenly you have almost this nocebo effect of, oh my God, negative information, even though many times you know that if you're younger, especially if you're vibrant, you should be able to bounce back. Again, these are symptoms and signs, and your body has amazing self-healing capabilities, but we then accept the fate that we are there.